like to share your thoughts?
Well, that's what it's always been to me. Early childhood in Western Australia is not to 8-year-olds, and that's what we should encompass.
Okay.
And that you left embraces in childhood, like the rights of childhood. So that's, I see that's being able to play between 18 years old and me, which is still a child.
Okay. Any other thoughts? So those people couldn't see, was basically saying we're looking at a framework that is about early childhood in Western Australia, about the birth to 8, about their continuity. And so, yeah.
If you've got a national standard, then right across the country, if a child goes from one setting to another, at least there's a possibility that every child will have a reasonable standard of care wherever they go in the country, because the standards will be set and monitored.
That's very good point. And that's part of the reason about this, is to ensure that right across the range of services we do have that focus on quality improvement. I think that's basically what you're saying as well.
But also, not only between schools, one to the other, but my concern is between like daycares to school, but we don't transition information. Are we able to do that in the system?
Certainly in terms of focus on quality improvement, in terms of achievement of those standards and how the standards operate. Yes, sir.
I'm just also thinking that if it's only for pre-kindergarten and kindergarten, some schools only have one kindergarten in their school. That can be quite isolated, quite a lot of. I just put on that kindergarten teacher. If you have that to the 8-year-olds, wherever our cut-off point is, that actually gives more people to work together to assist in meeting those standards.
Yep. So the sense is that by applying it across the early years, we've got that notion of ongoing quality improvement, rather than, if you like, taking the letter of the law of saying, well, this only applies in other states up until the time they go into pre-primary, so that's all we're going to do. It defeats, I suppose, the intent of why we've taken this commitment to implement the NQS as part of school, is that it is not about compliance per se, but it's more about an ongoing and continuing focus on the quality of what's going on in early childhood programs. And at the same time, what that enables us to do is to lever off a lot of the other materials that have been developed around the country to support implementation of the National Quality Standard. I will put one little proviso on that, though, is that quite a lot of the national resources that are being developed for the context of more the long day care, family care type environment. So sometimes when you're looking at them, you might have to say, as that fits in school provider service. But as long as you take that on board, then you can take what you want to take from it and recognise that it is meant to be a resource that's used right across the range of services. Okay, just to move on then. So what could implementation of the National Quality Standard mean for schools? As I've indicated, the National Quality Standards of school won't be aligned to the regulatory processes going on in other services, but to the existing school quality assurance and regulatory processes that exist and under the School Education Act. But the issue is that what we do in schools, and I'm picking up on the points that have just been made, what we need to do in schools needs to be comparable to how the NQS is being assessed and applied in other education and care services. That is an assessment of the school's performance in relation to the 7 quality areas under the NQF, under the NQF. Will need to be comparable in terms of the requirements for meeting those standards to those conducted by the Education and Care Regulatory Unit that the Department of Communities has set up for long day care, family day care and out of school hours care in Western Australia. And I'll put another little bracket there. If your school is providing any of those services, what I'm saying today doesn't mean that if you've got a long day care service at your school and it's being provided by your school, then you would still need to go through the regulatory processes for that long day care or that out of school hours care that is provided by your school. It really only applies to kindergarten, pre-kindergarten that we've got that exclusion. So the issue, though, that we're grappling with is then the manner in which these assessments are made, how they work in a school setting, according and comprobated at the same time, though, according to the different legislation. The NQS sets the benchmark for quality of early childhood education and services, and it brings together those 7 quality areas important to the outcomes for children. It's linked to the early years learning framework, and it sets out, as you can see in the handout there, 7 quality areas, 18 standards, and 58 elements. So the standards are the high-level outcome statements, with the elements being those outcomes that contribute to the standard being achieved. You just want to have a look at that for a moment, for those that haven't had a look at this before. If you like, the dark shaded area is the quality area, of which there are 7. Then the lighter shaded are the standards. So if you look at quality area 1, educational program and practice, there are 2 standards, and then underneath those, a range of elements that are looked at in terms of determining whether or not that standard is being achieved. And similarly through the others for children's health and safety, which focuses on safeguarding and promoting children's health and safety, the physical environment, making sure that the physical environment is safe, suitable, and provides rich and diverse range of experiences for children's learning and development. Quality area 4 is about staffing arrangements and the provision of qualified and experienced educators, able to develop relationships with children, create safe and predictable environments, and encourage children's active engagement in the program. Over the page, quality area 5, in relations to children, being responsive, respectful, promoting children's sense of security and belonging. Quality area 6 focuses on collaborative relationships with families. Quality area 7 on leadership and management of the service that contributes to the environments for children and their development. And in each you can see the number of standards that are applied and the elements that go to make it up. Now it's here where I'm going to do a bit of compare and contrast, if you like. Because if we were in a long day care, family day care or out of schoolhouse care, then under that arrangement, what would occur is that the NQF requires that the school would have a quality improvement plan, which would include an assessment by the service, the provider of the service, of the quality that that service provides against each of those standards and the regulations that go to support it. The plan would then identify any areas that the provider considers may require improvement, and it also is required to have a statement of the philosophy of the service. So they're the elements that they're required to provide. And so when somebody from the education and care regulatory unit comes out, it's really having a look at their quality improvement plan that forms the basis then of examining the performance of the service in relation, assessing each of the standard quality areas, making judgments in relation to all of the standards. And basically, in order to be able to be rated according to the national quality standards, all of the elements basically need to get a tick, if you like, in order for that standard to be achieved. And all the standards need a tick in order for the quality area to be deemed to meet the national quality standard. So every element's looked at, every standard's looked at, and on the basis of that, the person coming into the service makes a judgment of each of the 7 quality areas and gives it a rating. Gives it a rating in terms of whether there is some significant improvement required and that the service is in danger of not being able to continue, whether it's working towards meeting the national quality standard, whether meets the national quality standard, whether it exceeds the national quality standard. And if the service exceeds, then it is able to then apply to the national body, ACECQA, to seek what's called an excellence rating. It's done separately from that process. So that's what's occurring in those particular service schools. And that began in WA very recently, once the Act was proclaimed, as I said, on the 1st of August.